I'm super happy to be conducting a conversation with a guy who's become a friend over the years, Matt Spiegel. Welcome to the stage of DMS.
Thank you, sir.
All right. So, I mean, you and I got to know each other when you were like 100 years ago. You know, maybe the hair was a little differently located on your head, but and you were in an agency. That's what happens when you work at an agency.
That's true. I might have started losing the hair before that. That's
there
possible.
We go. Okay. So just speaking of that from a personal career transition standpoint, that's a long way to go, right? Agency, yeah. You had a little spell of time learning how to make money with your hands in both pockets of your customers with Michael Casson and Media Link. So I'm sure you picked up a few skills there, and then you ended up at of all things.
Right.
A credit union.
I like where we're starting. Yeah, this is great. This is gonna be fun.
Right? So, walk me through your thing. Like, how intentional was it? And tell us a little bit about that journey.
Sure. I got into this industry accidentally. I joined it in '97, which I think is saying that I've gotten old. But it also means I was in the early days of this industry. At the beginning. I worked for a company that lasted for about a minute, and after that company fell apart, I knew I wasn't going to leave the industry. I didn't know what the heck I was going to do. I actually went to work for a direct response television agency. Remember, Ron Popeil, right? I was at an agency that actually was managing that type of money. So I became the data guy in the late 90s. That was all kind of accidental. And then I suppose if you fast forward, I spent a lot of time thinking about waves in this industry. The first one I rode was search. Right? As a way to think about that, I got into search when Google had 3 people or maybe 5 people in Chicago, which is pretty crazy. And then I rode in Omnicom the programmatic wave, and then TransUnion really was the identity wave, which is obviously what we're spending time talking about now. So that part was pretty intentional. And in the middle, you consult when you're not sure what you really want to do next.
Right.
So that was a great little stopping ground.
So I'm going to retract. I called you an agency guy, but you're in no way, shape, or form an agency guy. You were an entrepreneur who and an agency happened to buy your company.
I appreciate that. Yes, I call myself an accidental agency guy.
Okay, right.
And by the way, I was inside Omnicom for 6 years, and amazing experience, and wasn't for me long term.
So you're TransUnion, one of the 3 major credit bureaus, that in theory, right, in a world which is moving towards first-party data and, better get to know your customers, and have direct connections with them, the primacy, especially in a privacy-centric world of first-party data, it would seem in theory that a credit bureau would be like perfectly situated, because not only do you have first-party, hell, you got PII on everyone. So, and where all of a sudden in this whole identity world, one of the issues, I think I said this to your CEO in your boardroom in Chicago, which is the paramount attribute that people are looking for in an identity intermediary is trust.
Yeah.
And that seems to be fleeting in the sort of MarTech, ad tech sort of black box. I think there's a picture somewhere, LUMAscape. Presumably you guys can bring that. Talk to me about the investment thesis. Was that part of the thinking coming into it?
Yeah, I think it's important to recognize that we don't come from the MarTech and ad tech space. Well, I do, TransUnion doesn't. We're actually, again, if you understand what goes on inside a credit reporting agency, in order to do that work, which is, again, helping financial institutions judge risk portfolio,
yep. That
is fundamentally an identity exercise, right? You have to connect disparate signals into common households and common profiles to make those decisions. I don't even think, arguably, definitively, a much more important set of decision-making criteria than we deal with in the MarTech and ad tech space than any individual decision. So when you start there, and then recognize, yes, we not only have a lot of data assets that we inherently, again, own, we also go out in the marketplace and secure data assets, but we're comfortable touching data. And we're comfortable at the intersection of what I often talk about as personalization and privacy.
Yep.
Right, like somebody has to sit there. Quite frankly, most of the companies that come from a digitally native ecosystem have no idea what data compliance actually looks like. And so, yeah, we are here to bring trust to it, and that's a balance of balancing privacy and personalization, and it's balancing accuracy and scale. All those things are certainly a factor, and we knew we had the data. We didn't have the products or the team. And so, yeah, as you guys have witnessed in the industry, we went about acquiring the pieces to build a business around that asset.
Many pieces, in fact. It's inorganic growth strategies, warms the heart of an M&A advisor. And you did a string of acquisitions,
Yes.
actually, presumably to accelerate your position in the sector. I remember a board meeting primarily to discuss TrueOptic, but when I think someone asked the question, I believe it was Chris, who said, "Hey, should we buy, LiveRamp or some identity, company?" And my answer was, you should go all in and buy Neustar. By the way, we'll be sending you wire instructions for that. But that was a bold move. That was a $3 billion move after making several multi-$100 million acquisitions. How internally is that strategy? Obviously, we're midstream, right? Many more acquisitions to come, undoubtedly.
Obviously.
But
why would I be here sitting on stage
correct,
if you weren't confident?
Correct. Why would I have you here? Exactly. So, how is your assessment of that strategy from an execution standpoint?
Listen, it's going well. Anyone who's been through this much acquisition knows it takes time to put it all together. But I think we're doing it right. I think that's the important part, which is we've integrated the teams a long time ago. We're doing a lot of the right work on putting the products together, and it's a great balance, right? What we've gotten now as a result of adding Neustar to our portfolio, and yeah, we did a lot of other acquisitions leading up to it, which made it possible so that we could have the Neustar discussion. We couldn't have started there effectively. Yeah. And I won't say ended there. This current chapter ends there because of the other work we've done. Again, we're doing the right things. We are putting together a product stack which is end-to-end on a single common identity graph, which is interconnected through all the different pieces. And again, remember, for us, it's a portfolio not of only marketing products, right, but of credit products, of fraud prevention products, of communications products, of B2B2C products.
So it's holistic.
It's holistic, and I think we're doing it right. We're not done, but right. I'm happy with where we are at this point.
Not done, folks. And can you give us a prioritized list of your next targets? Sorry, that's a question for the bar later. And what about third party? I mean, you heard Brian this morning talking about the primacy of first party data, and that's where it's at, and data clean rooms and CDPs, blah, blah, blah. What about third party? Does that still have a role?
Yeah, for sure. Listen, here's the way I think about it, and we often talk about it is, first of all, our industry, I believe, generally speaking, actually has very little understanding of what it means to understand identity. Like, actually understand identity. I don't mean browser identity, I mean actual identity.
Right.
There is a ton of different data signal, and there's a ton of data science that is involved in actually being to stitch together devices, people, and households. That is not a simple thing.
Right.
I'm actually kind of over everyone talking about, well, my graph is deterministic. Well, that's kind of code for you don't understand identity, right? Right? Like, that's nice, and you have 5 people that you can identify, but you don't know how to build a graph. And so, will our need to source different data signals change? 100%, right? Will some things go away? For sure. I just don't fundamentally believe that any one identity signal is going to rule the future. It doesn't make any sense to me. There's too many different ways we as consumers interact with things to think it's all about one signal. So, will we have to source data differently? Will we have to partner differently as things evolve? 100%. But is third-party data dead? I don't think so, and quite frankly, and I know you guys are using it, I know we define things, but do we really need second-party and first-party data?
I hate it.
Yeah.
No, and the one that really bugs me, zero-party data.
Yes. Good. We are good at marketing in the MarTech space.
Marketing.
Shocking, yes.
It's yet another 3-letter acronym.
Yes.
So we describe the ecosystem as evolving from a bifurcated ecosystem of walled gardens and open web to one that's kind of trifurcated. Walled gardens, open web, and in the middle, something we're calling hedged gardens, which are, not as tall as walls and more permeable, which means that any company with a large amount of consumer data has to kind of go off premises, network, in order to, widen their reach. Presumably, that is like a perfect TAM or SAM for identity solutions.
Yeah. Yeah, listen, if the point in there is that you have really only a hand, listen, everyone says identity. Everyone has a version of identity. Good, you should, and that it's fundamentally different in being an identity provider.
Right.
And so what I hear and what you're talking about is, yeah, listen, there are a handful of the largest, most scaled media companies that can actually, quote, go it alone.
Right.
Right. And then there's the rest of the industry that actually needs help. And so, yeah, listen, and I guess part of that too is in that industry at scale, we are realizing just how much identity powers the personalization ecosystem we're looking for. And so, yeah, in that landscape is a lot of opportunities for us, and we're interested in being an enabler. Right? There is a Venn diagram of things going on in this industry, of things we do and our partners do and competitors do. But at the end of the day, we like being sitting in the middle. Right?
Yep.
We like being an enablement layer that says if you're going to transact on top of identity, and it should be TransUnion. Will we be the only option to answer that question? Do we believe there'll be one identity to rule them all? No. We think we'll have a significant share, and we'll be one of a very short list that matters in the ecosystem.
One of the things Brian pointed out in the State of Digital was this notion that, we went from an audience bought media world to all of a sudden now we got privacy's kind of kneecapped that whole capability, and we have certain technology solutions to try and, yes, of course, we're going to do context and we should do a lot more on creative, but to get back the chocolatey goodness that is audience-based media buying, things like clean rooms. What's TU's perspective on the clean room phenomena?
Well, I'd start with the fact that while clean room is the buzzword of the year, clean rooms as a concept is nothing new. Right, this has been going on for decades, right? So I think that's important. I think what it means, our industry is waking up to the fact that the way we have historically sent data everywhere is just fundamentally a bad idea, right? Turns out that's not the safest, most secure way to distribute data. And so the idea that we would create ecosystems that manage that makes a ton of sense. Listen, I think it's good to see innovation on the edges. Do I think in another decade we'll see a ton of standalone, quote, clean room companies? No, it's a fundamental part of data collaboration, and anyone in that data game, I think, has to have those capabilities. So listen, we need innovation, and I don't think it's an independent thing long term, which sounds like an M&A opportunity is what you're going to say.
Okay, so I heard three things. I really only heard one thing, but I heard three things there. I'm very predictable, by the way. Ka-ching. So I heard product or feature.
Yeah.
So data clean rooms, engagement letters will be available.
But I bet a bunch of those building clean rooms don't disagree.
Right.
But I mean, innovation happens on the edges, and companies like ours end up acquiring them where we weren't able to build. I heard Rob talk about the build versus buy scenario. We've clearly been heavily on the buy side. We need to balance that out as we evolve. Balance it out. We'll do, don't worry. But listen, we have clean room capabilities too. Does that mean we have everything that everyone else has? Probably not.
So, well, let's talk about, there are companies, data infrastructure companies like Snowflake, who provide a broader set of capabilities in and around data infrastructure, but they've gone vertical and also provide clean room capabilities. The LiveRamp, which is largely a matching capability, also has clean room features. Is there a risk to you that these behemoths can just offer this maybe for free as a giveaway to get more client stickiness?
If you believe, as I do, that identity resolution and owning an identity infrastructure itself actually is hard and is real work and is differentiated, then no, you don't fear that. You have to find the balance between what we build and where we integrate. We're certainly very conscious of the fact that TransUnion will not be the hub of all products.
Right.
We are more than happy to integrate. You want to use Snowflake as your platform of choice? What if it's our identity powering that? And quite frankly, most of the companies that are doing that type of work, the Snowflakes of the world and others, are calling guys like us to say we need the identity inside. It's not their game.
Right.
We sit in a very unique spot to be able to provide that resolution engine and make that actionable that most of the other tech companies don't do.
So it's kind of like co-opetition, right? You're critical to the ecosystem. You're staying neutral on the media side, and yet,
Out of the media game, I think, is importantly.
all right, so let's get you in trouble.
Okay.
Let's do a lightning co-opetition round. So I'm going to say a company name, and you're going to tell me whether they're friend, foe, or it's complicated. All right,
Kill them all.
here we go. Experian, never mind. Equifax,
I've
never
never
mind.
heard. Who are
Never
those?
mind.
Yeah, got it.
Snowflake,
Yeah, I mean, sure, partner, friend. What am I saying?
friend, foe, or it's complicated.
Sure. Okay. Well,
Okay.
sure.
Salesforce.
As far as I know, a friend. I like Marty. Right.
Who doesn't like Mark?
Right.
That's easy. Oracle.
Yeah, I think the same thing, right? There's this Venn diagram, but I'm sure we sell a lot of the same stuff. I feel friendly with the Rob and the crew. Great.
Friends. Twilio, mParticle, LiveRamp,
I mean,
InfoSum,
yeah,
Habu,
I mean,
Optable.
clearly along this journey. Yeah. Anyone else in the room that would like a shout out to see if we like each other? Listen, here at the macro level, the thing that I was actually talking about this last night. In our industry, and I'm sure other industries, but not every industry, co-opetition is massive.
Right.
Right. So the Venn diagrams of stuff that we do and others do, there's no doubt there's a ton of overlap.
Right.
Listen, I realize, and we realize at TransUnion that we play a great role where we can integrate and partner, we're happy to, and there's segments of the market that are otherwise uncovered or who use us for a lot of stuff, so we're going to build product that you guys might be building too. Does that make us hardcore competitors? Most of the time, no. And yes, to win, we got to steal share from somebody.
Right.
And so I'm sure we'll probably steal share from all of you guys, and I hope we also collaborate and partner with all of you too. I hope that's not what's driving decisions.
All right. So we got the carrot and the stick, one in each hand. Hey, quick question. Cookie deprecation. Does it happen on December 31st, 2023?
Does it matter?
No? Okay, good. Doesn't matter. That's a good answer. Final question. Advice for, let's say you're a data CEO of a startup in the data world, and you're going, TransUnion should really buy my company. How should they approach that? I mean, obviously, we advise people to not be introduced to the bride while you're walking up the aisle in the church, right? There's work to be done to integrate. Maybe there's commercial opportunities to explore together, business development, which is a great path to corporate development. What advice would you give for someone who says, I want Matt to buy my company and make me filthy rich?
Yeah. I'll start with where you started, which is it's so funny on the number of calls we get. I suppose they're email inbounds with two cheaters that say virtually nothing. And then you kind of investigate the scenario, and the deal is, yes, in 60 days we need a term sheet. That is not the way to go about it. I quite frankly can't figure out how that actually works.
Right.
But apparently it does, because we get probably like 5 of those a week.
But the throughput is de minimis.
Yeah, it doesn't take a lot. Listen, I think you highlighted, the more that we can establish relationship early, the better. I think whether it's BD partnerships, into corp strategy, sometimes a minority investment can make sense. But yeah, listen, we want to get to know companies. We are not ones that just want to write a check and say 90 days, let's see if we can make it work. Right? Our most successful relationships have been where we have known the companies, we found some market opportunity, and then we see that, you know what, there is actually this fit, we've already been doing it. Those are the best stories for sure.
Wonderful. There you have it, folks. TransUnion coming for you. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.